All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, here to talk about everything in the world of professional wrestling. We have a great show for you today lined up. On tap today, we're going to talk about some AEW Dynamite review. It's a pretty decent, awesome episode. Then we're going to talk about some Thursday Night Wrestling preview, obviously step into the world of TNA Impact and the Ring of Honor. In our third segment, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about TNA Bound for Glory. It's their biggest pay-per-view of the year, kind of like WrestleMania for the WWE. We're going to talk about some of the match cards that have already been confirmed, starting to stir up the media in terms of professional wrestling. A lot of fans, especially, in terms of, NXT, TNA, since their latest collaboration has been a super success. Obviously, ticket sales have been through the roof, 1,010%. So can't wait to dive into that. We're also going to talk about Bill Goldberg's plans for the WWE. Me personally, I'm not a huge Bill Goldberg kind of guy, but we're just gonna, kind of, conspiracy theorize around it and just talk about, the possibilities. In our fifth and final segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about WrestleMania. We're going to talk about WrestleMania 40 run recently in an interview with Cody Rhodes. He has, obviously, saving kayfabe, saving face, not really alluding to anything and necessarily not really, giving fans an idea of the blockbuster main event that's going to be planned for Las Vegas in April. So, we're going to talk about that as well. So, but before we get into any of that, I want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that super chat, whether if you got a burning question or a hot take in terms of the world of professional wrestling or just something even absolutely dying to get off your chest. We at the GSMC Sports Network, we are all ears. This show is all about keeping the conversation going, making sure you guys' voice is part of the mix, making sure that you guys feel absolutely comfortable dropping whatever you guys have to say inside that thought, chat box or whatever. And if you really want to make sure that your comment, question, or concern gets noticed on air, why not use that super chat? Hit the $sign below that chat box. Whatever you send in, that message will be talked about. If it's juicy enough, will be debated about in the world of professional wrestling. We can also, it's a great way to support the channel, great way to support the GSMC Sports Network. Obviously, 1,010%. We have a bunch of gifted, passionate sports fans running podcasts that have one thing in mind is bringing you guys the latest breaking news, all the hottest content surrounding the world of professional sports. So make sure you guys, make sure that you guys keep this content that you love coming at you guys Monday through Friday. We are absolutely, obviously, thanks in advance. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here on the GSMC Sports Network daily. Your support makes all the difference. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's go ahead and keep that party going. Send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome. And together we will make sure this podcast is bigger, better, and stronger than ever. Of course, at the super chat, obviously not your thing. It's all good. You can still hit up the gsmcpodcast.net, hit up tips and donations link, and just, tell me how you feel. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Also, just remember to Superman punch that like a subscribe button to the show. Follow the show. Follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity 1,010%. But of course, in terms of talking sports, it's inevitable. Criticism is all part of the game. Feedback is a gift. So whatever you feel like inside that chat box, go ahead and, just go ahead and send it. Definitely love a lot of audience engagement. Makes a lot of, makes the podcast run a lot smoother. It's not just me, yelling in the mic for an hour straight, because believe me, I know how, how my voice can get annoying as well. So let's go and dive on into our first segment. We got AEW Dynamite. Overall, it was a good episode. I thought, from the beginning, you had Jon Moxley come out talking about how everything he's done has been for the greater good. Obviously, running an absolute muck all over AEW, Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, you name it. Talking about, getting, injuring and having the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, take a step away from AEW. Also, at the beginning of the show, you saw a welcoming party getting ready for Jon Moxley and company. Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, also, the Bastard Pack. So that was, kind of creates a little bit of realism. A lot of people, kind of gives me like a WCW feel, which I feel like, obviously comparing all elite wrestling to World Championship Wrestling has kind of been, taboo in terms of, media surrounding the world of professional wrestling. But, I feel like at this point, it's it's kind of inevitable. You had Turner Television, they bought WCW from the Crockett Promotions. And, now you have everything going down with Tony Khan, the deal with HBO Max, bringing Fox Sports, Latin America into the mix as well. Obviously, big news for the CMLL, also New Japan Professional Wrestling. So, definitely a lot of good things coming AEW's way. Hangman Adam Page kicked off AEW Dynamite, and, he was attacked by Colton Gunn of the Young Guns. Switchblade Jay White came off, and of course, chased Hangman Adam Page out of there. This is a pretty awesome feud. I like the fact that although Hangman Adam Page did pick up the L at Wrestle Dream, Jay White obviously has a really good record against the Hangman. But it's just building things up. It's been building things up for quite some time. Obviously, heading toward AEW Full Gear, their next premium live event. This match is going to happen. This match honestly kind of has to happen. Um, Jay White, the more or less the future of all elite wrestling, just like Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara. Um, but ultimately, this is going to lead for great things for Hangman Adam Page as well as Jay White. So I can't wait to see, how that further exempts the storylines in terms of, AEW. Next, we have Sammy Guevara taking on Shelton Benjamin, finally in Shelton Benjamin's second debut inside the ring of AEW. He's able to actually take on, a pretty worthy competitor. Sammy Guevara has been, he's been in talking with WWE NXT. He was, kind of a hot topic on the market, 1,010%. He was a free agent that every wrestling promotion was like, what, we can definitely, we can sign this guy to a decent deal. He's made it, clear in a bunch of interviews that he's absolutely not about the money. So you can get him for a steal. You can get him for like a nice little bargain price. And this kid is young. He's electric. He's absolutely elusive. He has a great arsenal attack as well as he's a tactician inside the ring, and he can bust out a nice submission once in a while. So this guy obviously has all the pages in the book in becoming a professional wrestler that's going to be, remembered for, years and years and years. So, but Sammy Guevara, his choice in staying with AEW, I didn't really take this loss much like a slap in the face as in terms of other wrestling news media. Like I've read a couple of articles saying that Sammy Guevara was kind of did dirty, Shelton Benjamin, just there to promote this new idea of the Hurt Business with MVP. And eventually you saw Bobby Lashley being signed by All Elite Wrestling as well. So, but necessarily you know, I don't agree with that. I feel like he's going to get another shot. He's still doing his thing right now. He's still the Ring of Honor, television champion. I believe he's the Ring of Honor six-man champion, and he's the tag team champion with Dustin Rhodes. So definitely a lot of great things coming to the future of this young superstar. But in terms of the Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin put on he put on a clinic. It was a great match. It was a great match. It had kind of a familiar finish. I don't know if any of you guys remember the Monday Night Raw theme song from like 2009 to late 2010, where you had Shawn Michaels hit a super kick off of a jumping off the top rope. You got Shelton Benjamin coming in for the attack, and Shawn Michaels hitting that sweet chin music. The match finished up like that. I thought it was kind of funny. Definitely. I know I'm a wrestling dork for kind of noticing things like that, but I thought that was kind of ironic. I thought that was pretty cool. Next, we have Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher comes out and talks absolute trash about Will Ospreay, the former AEW International Champion. Obviously, Ospreay lost his title at AEW Wrestling Dream because of Kyle Fletcher. Without a doubt. Kind of, none to say the least. The Don Callis family, with the addition of Lance Archer, the addition of the new Ring of Honor World Television Champion Brian Cage. These guys are the real deal. So obviously it's going to be, it's about time that they finally got their faction on the map. It's been kind of short due. Like I feel like they've, because before they recently added, CMLL's Roosh, which is, he's a dominant superstar. He's great, nevertheless. Like, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't have that spark. He never really had that spark. He can never really carry the brand. Like when people turn on television to watch professional wrestling and they see Roosh, it's not like, oh my god, like I'm so happy, like you know what I mean. But ultimately, Kyle Fletcher turning heel against Will Ospreay. it needed to be done. He went full heel. He went full heel. He even brought up the fact that, the fans, he was trash talking to fans, saying that I'm stuck in this arena with these inbred Americans. Obviously, from the Australian descent of Kyle Fletcher. And he basically was talking about Will Ospreay's history of how he stabbed people in the back to further his career. Like he was talking about Kazuchika Okada, New Japan Professional Wrestling. He was saying how he took Ospreay under his wing. Ospreay stabbed him in the back. And, basically setting up this storyline, basically explaining his actions and his motives is exactly the lessons that he's learned under Will Ospreay while he was with the Don Callis family, while he was with the United Empire. So, definitely thought it was kind of crazy. And then absolutely at the end of the promo, which I got to be honest, before he started shaving his head, I got to be honest, it was, it was dragging on quite a bit. It was really dragging on quite a bit. Even some of the fans were, saying, shut the F up. And of course, it got a little, got a little crazy, but obviously that's what AEW is kind of known for, having that, having that edgier kind of content out there as well. So all in all, AEW was, like I said, it was I feel like it was a great episode. A lot of notable moments, of course. We're going to talk about, we had Mark Briscoe sadly loses his Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship against the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. It was upsetting because I've recently become a huge Mark Briscoe fan. Every single time I thought he was going to drop the title against Kyle Fletcher, against Roderick Strong, he proved me wrong. He proved me wrong that, the things that he does inside the ring definitely makes me think that, that he's a superstar, and he had a terrific run. So that's really all I can say about it. Obviously, you saw Big Bill of the Learning Tree get involved. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be some outside interference to kind of help dictate the outcome of this match, and and it happened. And then you saw House of Black basically in a smash spot, proved that they were great. Queen Aminata once again, proving that she can also be a great wrestler as well. I know I was super high on this match, heading toward AEW. Camille was able to defeat Queen Aminata. Obviously, Mercedes Moné getting involved doesn't really help. And then you saw the Elite taking on Daniel Garcia and Private Party. Garcia and Private Party once again defeats the Young Bucks, and I being brutally honest, like I said, I feel like the Young Bucks during this booking, in terms of All Elite Professional Wrestling, the booking is bad. I don't like it. It's diminishing the value of the Young Bucks, all the legacy that they've ever built in the independent wrestling circuit, Ring of Honor, New Japan Professional Wrestling, Star, you name it. It's all gone. It's all gone basically because of this botched storyline. That just proves how pivotal wrestling creative officers could possibly be. Why you should hire, innovative, how you should hire professional, how you should hire cutting edge, writers that are always ready to, kind of initiate something different. Because if you have the same product spitting out over and over and over again, have you ever heard of reruns on terms of television? That's exactly what you're getting in terms of bookings for this whole Elite thing and the Young Bucks. I feel like it kind of has to come to an end. But overall, like I said, I loved AEW Dynamite. I thought it was pretty cool. So overall, like I said, 4.5. It's a watch. It's a watch. Maybe not such a must watch, but if you have a chance to go ahead and check out highlights on YouTube, make sure you guys go ahead and do that. All right, guys, so that was the end of the first segment. Now we're going to dive on into the second segment. Tonight is my Thursday night wrestling talk. We preview some of the episodes of Ring of Honor, also TNA Impact, have some hot takes, and talk in terms of, TNA and Ring of Honor. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna
be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit, I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant, I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we are back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage curtain calls, rumors, and, drama. We also talk about superstar inactive statuses, also injury updates. We talk about contract negotiations, new signings. We also talk about extensions. We talk about wrestling promotions from WWE to AEW to the CMLL to game-changing wrestling to the National Wrestling Alliance. Basically, if it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show 1010%. So, just kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We talked about our AEW Dynamite review. Make sure you go ahead and check out that YouTube video on the GSMC Sports Podcasting Network, as well as the GSMC Podcasting Network to kind of catch up on the latest GSMC Wrestling Laureate content. And, just kind of, preview our next segment. We're going to talk about my Thursday Night Wrestling preview, step into the world of Ring of Honor and the ring of TNA Impact. So, yeah, let's go and dig on into it. But before we get into any of that, I want to remind you guys, if you have a burning question or a hot take in terms of professional wrestling, we at the GSMC Sports Network are absolutely all ears, 1010%. This show is all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure you guys feel like your voices are heard, your opinions, they matter. It's all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure your voice feels like you are part of the mix, so don't be shy. Drop absolutely anything inside that chat. Give me a shout out of what city you're listening from, maybe what country. Also, give me your hot takes in terms of, professional wrestling. And yeah, we can have fun with it. And if you really want to make sure your comment question gets noticed, why not use that super chat? It's that $ below that chat box. And absolutely everything you put inside that box is going to be featured and talked about on the show. If it's something really juicy, actually something we can debate about, maybe some, create kind of a segment to the point where, you are the host. This is our wrestling podcast. Obviously, I loved comparing this wrestling podcast to, I feel like if you walk into a bar and if you sit next to a wrestling fan, being a wrestling fan nowadays, kind of appeal to like a niche audience where, not a lot of people kind of get the passion for professional wrestling. It's kind of like one. Honestly, this might be wildly inaccurate numbers. I would say probably one out of every like 25 people actually are wrestling fans, maybe even higher than that. That's how crazy it is. That's how lost people are who have missed the opportunity of becoming, a part of this huge conglomeration that is professional wrestling. TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE. At the end of the day, we are wrestling heads. We are, wrestling dorks, if you want to call it that. But 1010%, it's definitely something to give a watch. We are absolutely, obviously, thank you in advance. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your support makes all the difference. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep this party going. Send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome. And together we will make sure this podcast is bigger, better, and stronger than ever. Once again, if the super chat is not your thing, you can still find us on the gsmcpodcast.net. Hit up that link, tap that tips and donations button, and tell me how you feel. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show. Follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity, 1010%. But of course, in terms of sports, it's inevitable. There's going to be some criticisms. There's going to be some debates, and that's okay. Don't be shy. Absolutely, feedback is a gift. Definitely would love to hear you guys' hot takes in terms of professional wrestling. So don't be shy. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, guys. All right, so without further ado, let's jump on into our second segment, my Thursday night wrestling preview. So let's go and talk about some Ring of Honor. Obviously, this is Ring of Honor's returns to the latest installment of the weekly Honor Club series, on the digital streaming platforms. And we have a pretty awesome show for you today lined up. We have the celebration of the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena. Obviously, she has become one of the longest reigning, champions, not in just the women's division in all of professional wrestling, hitting the independent circuit, like Ring of Honor, like the CMLL, like New Japan Professional Wrestling, like Stardom, obviously in terms of AEW as well. So, obviously I love Athena. I think she's an asset to basically any wrestling promotion that she stepped foot in. Obviously, WWE didn't really do her, that well ever since she became WWE Women's NXT champion. And then as soon as she debuted on the main roster, WWE bookings, WWE creative team, personnel didn't really know how to handle this superstar that is, well, back in the day her name was Ember Moon, her in-ring name was Ember Moon, but now it's Athena. Now she's kicking ass somewhere else. Obviously WWE dropping the ball in terms of that, but now she's on Ring of Honor. She gets more television time, definitely more merchandise sales as well as advertisement, sponsorship, for her to be more marketable. So I definitely think that's better for her. Ring of Honor television title match. We have Brian Cage taking on Commander. Commander, recently suffered a loss to Hologram. It's kind of crazy. Hologram recently suffered an injury as well. But Commander, he's been one of the most famous luchadors in Ring of Honor, and I feel like he could definitely give Brian Cage a run for his money. Obviously, the leader of Cage of Agony, Brian Cage, recently being basically being drafted to the Don Callis family, and which has become, you have Lance Archer, you have Kyle Fletcher, they're the real deal here, so definitely expect Brian Cage to definitely get some help if he falls into trouble here. Next we have Reina Isas go ahead and take it on Viva Van. Viva Van is kind of on the build up for her to basically be the new up and coming rising star. She has basically all the talent in the world to become a successful professional wrestler. It just really has to transcribe into her accomplishments, and yeah, that's not easy. Um, professional wrestling, yes, it could be choreographed, and at the same time, it's booked. It's booked. Definitely going to break the fourth wall here, and I feel like it's important for Ring of Honor to start, promoting Viva Van in more of a heavyweight, and at this point it is hard. And what I talked about early in this segment, Athena is absolutely untouchable, one of the longest reigning champions. She's definitely, she's the cream of the crop, and much like they're doing with TNA, like the Knockouts champion Jordan Grace, they're not really going to force anything if it's not going to make sense. If it's not going to make sense. And that's something that wrestling promotions have to do, is have storylines. A lot of wrestling promotions do love that shocking factor, that unpredictability, that something happens and they're like, and all the fans are like, yeah, that's so cool. It's so edgy. It's something new. At first, yeah, it works, but down the line, creating storylines, especially, for the promotion itself, a couple months down the line, it just, sometimes they get booked into matches and it just doesn't seem like it works. It doesn't seem like it works. And they're like, you know what? They should have kept the championship on Athena, or they should have kept the championship on somebody else, because after a month of this, like, it doesn't really seem like this person is really going anywhere. It's super detrimental to the promotion, but ultimately it's detrimental to the superstar being promoted during the booking. So, definitely got to, approach the situation with much caution, obviously with a lot of courteous as well, taking into consideration of some of the possibilities that can happen, if you just want to go off key and be like, you know what, let's just have the unpredictable factor. You've seen it in WWE a bunch of times. You've seen it in, especially, WCW. That's the reason why they faltered. That's the reason why they sold to Vince McMahon in the early 2001s. So, sometimes, it could be great, but most of the time, you kind of have to play it soft there. You're going to have to play it by key, day by day. All right, next we have Rocky Romero. Rocky Romero recently joining the conglomeration, taking on Brandon Cutler, excuse me. Rocky Romero, I love that he still kind of has this isolationist point of view. How ultimately he did become a part of the conglomeration, but at the end of the day, he's like, you know what? At the end of the day, no one's gonna watch my back. No one's gonna step into that wrestling ring and wrestle for me to try to gain accomplishments, to try to gain, name, image, likeness in terms of the fans, and also like merchandise sales, marketing and stuff like that. Because if you're not selling the seats inside that stands, guess what? Your creative control is lost. It's botched. And basically you become like a forethought, and they're like, you know what, you've basically became you were a mid Carter who can possibly challenge for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship, maybe even the AEW International Championship or the TNT Championship. And now you go down to basically you're wrestling in front of like 1,200 people again, at a municipal arena in like, Riverside, California. Obviously, that's where I'm from, Southern California. That's where they would wind up. Not that I'm saying that that's bad. Ultimately feel like wrestlers that ultimately, they do go back down, literally have to kind of find yourself, recreate your character, and most importantly, build your self confidence up. And, eventually you make it up to the top again. So maybe sometimes, things do happen for a reason. And especially in terms of professional wrestling, that notion has definitely become concrete. Next, we have Lee Johnson and Ed Undoka taking on a surprise team tonight on Ring of Honor. We have the Gates of Agony taking on the Infantry. The Infantry, basically looking for a way to get into the storylines in terms of professional wrestling. In terms of Ring of Honor, I've been great about these young guys. I know they have a lot of talent, and taking on the Gates of Agony tonight. Obviously, it's not the easiest. It's not the easiest task, but if they want to see their tag team moving forward, if they want a shot at Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs for that Ring of Honor's maybe 6 man, maybe for that Ring of Honor, TV championship, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to do something, kind of like you basically have to get your crap together, man. You got to become, the tag team champions to ensure that you're gonna get bookings. Other than that, guess what? At the end of the day, you're gonna be let go. So, Ring of Honor, definitely a much watch tonight on Honor Club streaming services. Make sure you check that out. All right, now moving on to TNA. TNA, it's the last stop before Bound of Glory this Saturday, October 26th. Go ahead and find out at the latest moment, maybe some matches that are going to be added to the match card. Tonight we have contract signings with Joe Hendry, with Nick Nemeth, and of course we have Jordan Grace defending her TNA Knockouts Championship against Masha Slamovich, which is it's gonna be a great episode. It's gonna be a great episode. I definitely feel like sparks are going to fly while these superstars are going to be signing this contract. Definitely, it's like an unwritten rule inside of professional wrestling. Every single time you get inside the ring with your fancy clothes and getting ready to put a pen to paper, something always happens. Usually someone always winds up through the table. So it should be pretty interesting to find out what's going on. Jonathan Grisham secured a win over John Skyler on Explosion, with Josh Alexander watching closely from commentary. Now Grisham and Alexander face off tonight, and I love Jonathan Grisham. I definitely think he's going to be a future star. But Josh Alexander, he needs a little bit more momentum heading toward his match with Frankie Kazarian. So I definitely think that's going to be a dub for Josh Alexander. In a high stakes scramble match, we're going to see Frankie Kazarian, AJ Francis with Casey Navarro, Sammy Callahan, Laredo Kid, Jake Something, and Jason Hooch with John Skyler. The winner earns the coveted number 20 spot in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Bound for Glory match, while the loser is forced to enter at number 1. So obviously a lot of obligation, a lot of stipulations. Basically, you can assure yourself a title shot with a W, and if you lose, you're forced to go number 1, which is not good for your chances of becoming a champion. So, obviously, a lot of things happening on TNA tonight. Just grooming. more toward the buildup of TNA's biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory. So make sure you watch it. It's a must watch. Heather Reckless has caught the attention of the personal concierge and Ash by Elegant. She's accepted the offer for a makeover, which will be revealed obviously in the launch party from Elegance tonight. And also we have a TNA World Tag Team title scene. After defeating ABC, the system has run roughshod over the impact zone, but with the Hardys back and looking for the gold. ABC is eager to reclaim their lost titles. Tensions are absolutely boiling over. ABC and the Hardys are forced to join forces to kind of take down the system in this blockbuster tag team showdown. And of course, lastly, we have Wendy Chu from NXT. Obviously, last time we saw her on Tuesday, taking Tatum Paxley in a crate, just, kind of kidnapping her. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, she's going to be accompanied by Rosemary taking on Danny Luna, one half of no, Jody Threat with Danny Luna by her side, one half of the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions Spitfire. So tonight, like obviously hit up the TNA Impact Zone, watch TNA Impact. It's going to be amazing, and don't miss a second of this total nonstop action. All right, guys, so we got done with our second segment. Now it's time to move on to the third. We're going to talk about TNA. We're going to talk about TNA Bound for Glory predictions. They have a pay-per-view coming up on Saturday, their biggest pay-per-view of the year. So we're going to talk about that, maybe dive into some predictions, some analysis, maybe some future storylines. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice-cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here, your favorite wrestling fan, here to give you all the action, here to give you all the wrestling know-how, all the backstage rumors behind the scenes. We talk about superstar news, inactive statuses, injury updates. We talk about contract negotiations, extensions, and signings. We talk about promotions from AEW to WWE, TNA to Ring of Honor if it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling. We talk about it here on this show every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you guys catch it up, here on, your daily wrestling show. All right, just going to reflect on what we talked about right quick. We talked about our AEW Dynamite review. We talked about my TNA Ring of Honor preview, and I got a typo right there. There we go. And now we're going to talk about TNA Bound for Glory. Should be pretty cool. But of course, before we do any of that, just want to remind you guys to go ahead and drop your drop your hot takes inside that chat. Tell me how you feel. Maybe give me some of your predictions that's going to happen on TNA. It's going to be a great PLE. It seems like ever since the collaboration happened between NXT and TNA, the ticket sales have been selling through the roof, selling through pre-sale. And this is a wrestling promotion that went from performing in front of tens of thousands of fans. And of course, after the falling out in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they went down to about, maybe like 5,000. And now these guys are wrestling probably in front of like 3,000 people. And that's, and the fact that they're selling out arenas where they can add ticket revenue, they can sell merchandise, they could basically kind of staple their name in terms of professional wrestling on the main, on the main slate in terms of a lot of conglomerate wrestling promotions that are basically in the millions and billions, like All Elite Wrestling, like the WWE. Obviously, WWE, seems like it can't be really that much, touch. They have become basically the status quo of what a professional wrestler, what a successful professional wrestling promotion should really do. But, necessarily, I believe that. I do. I believe that. But at the same time, some of the bookings, especially during the years of 2017 to the end of the COVID era, professional wrestling, storylines were scarce. Superstars were, they were well, not forced, but some of the wrestlers stepped up. Most of them kind of took a seat back during these unprecedented times, during these dangerous times, where literally you can you can walk out at the, to the grocery store. You can walk out to a doctor's appointment. You can go out there and wrestle with, with your fellow superstar, or in this terms, kind of like a co-star, like a coworker. And like maybe they contracted, COVID-19, and then all of a sudden you get sick, and then you get the quarantine, and it just wasn't easy, and that's something that WWE really kind of struggled with. That's the reason why they built the Thunderdome. That's the reason why they do have that performance center located in the back of Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay, Florida. So definitely a lot of wrestling promotions didn't really survive that COVID-19 outbreak, where they were forced to wrestle in front of fanless arenas. You lost ticket sales, you lost merchandise sales, and that takes a hurt. That takes a hurt. In terms of that, it's like losing popularity. You lose ratings, and ratings obviously keep you guys afloat. Recently, in terms of streaming services, that's kind of made it a little more easier in terms of basically any entertainment. You can kind of become your own your public relations representative based on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. Back then, they didn't really have that. So, of course, it's kind of hard for a wrestling promotion to kind of die subsequently, but I don't know. I feel like TNA did a really good job of surviving, during the pandemic, and trying to keep the company afloat, especially when Dixie Carter left with her Panda Energy sponsorship. Obviously, her dad was the CEO, and that's where they got most of their money. So, all right, moving on to the TNA Bound for Glory predictions. Obviously, first we're going to talk about Bound for Glory pre-show. We have a 20-person call your shot gauntlet match. Winner gets a shot at they get a shot at a nice little, shiny golden trophy, good for that. But that's not the trophy that they're fighting for. It's the fact that they are fighting for a contract that he can invoke at any time within 1 year for a championship match of his or her choosing. Obviously, I got them talking about, what's going to happen on TNA Impact, where they're going to have a match where the loser will be number one, and the winner will, be in that coveted number 20 spot, having the best chances of winning this gauntlet match. So it should be pretty interesting. Josh Alexander taking on Steve Macklin. These guys have been beefing back and forth for quite some time. Finally, we're going to get, a little closure. Finally, we're going to get to find out what these two guys are, made for. Josh Alexander has not yet been confirmed of signing an extension with his contract with TNA. This might be a way of him basically being, hey, like if I lose this match, I get to put Steve Macklin over, because right now Josh Alexander is definitely one of the best, contemporary wrestlers on the TNA roster, and having Steve Macklin pick up a victory has got to be good for his confidence, got to be good for his career. Definitely the perception that he has in terms of the TNA audiences and stuff like that. I got a chat from my main man Anthony Mazzano. Once again, thank you so much for helping me out yesterday. Almost a disaster. Definitely, blessed to see you here attending the show. We have Moose, the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, taking on Mike Santana. Mike Santana he's been on a roll. He's been on a roll. I feel like he's definitely the next hot thing in terms of TNA. I believe that, besides, Joe Hendry, besides Steve Macklin, and even besides Josh Alexander, you kind of have Mike Santana there that could definitely get the job done. He puts on great wrestling matches, every single time. And although he does have that capability, he does have that experience, and he could definitely come off as that absolutely dominant, controlling the ring tempo throughout his matches, but at the same time, he could definitely work to his opponents, and he makes his opponents look good. That's something that a lot of wrestling figures can't really mention, even in the past, like even some of the matches that happening, even talk about like in the 80s with Hulk Hogan. Some of the matches that Hogan wrestled with some guys, they're like, hey, they were, told in an interview that Hogan, basically, it was like a smash match. He basically kicked their ass and then bam, that was it. That's not really the necessarily way to help promote your wrestling promotion. But I feel like Mike Santana is the future at TNA. I feel like he's gonna pick up this dub tonight, and I'm all for it. Next, we have the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. We have Spitfire, the team of Danny Luna and Jody Threat taking on Rosemary and Wendy Chu. This should be interesting. This should be really interesting because both of these stars, half of them, one's NXT, one is TNA. I feel like it'd be super badass if you have these girls win. You know, um, Although I am super high on Spitfire. I love Luna. I love Threat. And there's nothing against them, but I feel like it would be great for the collaboration of NXT if you're gonna have Rosemary and Wendy Chu. And like I said on NXT, how Wendy Chu basically kidnapped Tatum Paxley. So we might find out how that storyline's gonna unfold there as well. TNA X Division Championship, we have Mike Bailey taking on El Hijo del Vindico. And I want to see. I feel like Mike Bailey could definitely pick up the win here. Mike Bailey is a fighting champion. I would hate to see him lose, but of course, if you want the company to go into a different direction, much like you see in WWE WrestleMania, some of these matches, some of these title exchanges are kind of like hey, you know what? Let's start fresh. Let's go and start fresh with this promotion. Let's dive on into a whole another avalanche, a whole nother mountain of bookings where we can possibly promote younger talents, and but ultimately, just kind of help to make the product seem like new, new and edgy. Like I said before, the unpredictability factor is kind of overbearing in terms of professional wrestling, but at the same time, sometimes it could be good. And it's that fine line, it's that in between, it's that gray area. It can't be black or white. It's that gray area that makes for great wrestling bookings. And let's see if TNA can answer the challenge and have that happen at TNA Bound for Glory. All right, next we have PCO, the French Canadian Frankenstein, taking on Matt Cardona for the TNA Digital Championship and the International Heavyweight Championship in the Monsters Ball match. I don't want to see Matt Cardona win, and I know that might be a hot take. I know that might be a hot take. I understand that. I agree. When Matt Cardona came back to TNA, he's been great. Even before that, he was great. Like he went literally, he recreated his character after being released from WWE back in 2021. He recreated his character to be, just like this, some badass, some guy that every single time he grabs the mic, you have to pay attention to every word he says. You're lingering on it. You're hooked. You don't know if he's gonna leave you a cliffhanger or if he's gonna slap you in the mouth vocally. You don't know that's gonna happen. But PCO has worked so damn hard in terms of this in this booking. I feel like if Matt Cardona wins, it's kind of like not like a weakness in terms of TNA, but I feel like this whole storyline could be done better. I feel like after everything that's happening with Steph D. Lander and Matt Cardona coming back to TNA, joining forces once again. Obviously, she was under contract and stuff like that. I feel like it's been building up to this moment of Matt Cardona, becoming the new digital media champion. And I'm not saying he could be. I'm not saying he's a bad champion. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying that for the sake of things making sense in the world of total nonstop action. I definitely feel like PCO gonna he's gonna have to pick up the victory here. All right, we have a TNA World Tag Team Championship match, a three-way Full Metal Mayhem match. We have the Hardys taking on ABC, taking on Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers of the System. When the System has regained those tag team championships at TNA Bound for Glory, Slammiversary, excuse me. I was upset. I was ready for a tag team like ABC ultimately to, usher in this new fast-paced environment. Then you look at Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, and I'm not trying to hate on, bigger dudes or more of a rough shot, more of more of a roughneck kind of style of the tag team wrestling division. Obviously, it's been very popular in the past. The keyword the past, right? You had the Four Horsemen do it. You had Arn Anderson and his tag team partner. You've had damn it, who are those other guys? I can't remember. Oh my god. You had Mike Rotunda and Windham as well. You had these guys, but then, in terms of the tag team division, it needs to be more. I feel like it needs to be more fast paced. And I feel like, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, every single time they step inside the ring, it's more of a slow motion, not really like a fast pace, not really in that much environment. I feel like it is exciting, basically based on how these guys are, absolutely full heels, 1,010%. But, that just doesn't appeal to fans all the time. There has to be some sort of discrepancy. There has to be a new, innovative idea that could take TNA tag team to the next level. Because I feel like right now it's kind of, it's not like a lack thereof, or it's not like necessarily they're sinking, but I feel like it could be that much better. And when ABC won the championships, I was excited for this new era, and then only to have them drop the titles back. I don't know. I just don't want to see the Hardys regain the title. And I know that might be a hot take. And I know that, I'm like, oh, if you're a wrestling fan, you want to see the Hardys, retain. I don't. I don't. Next, we have a TNA Knockouts World Championship match. Jordan Grace taking on Masha Slamovich. These girls have fought once before. Masha Slamovich was literally, a move. She was a hair. She was literally inches away of knocking off Jordan Grace. But, Jordan Grace has just had so much momentum lately that I can't really imagine anybody taking her title. So it's, I'm kind of like at a loss for this match. I feel like Jordan Grace, 90%, maybe even like 95%. Master Slamovich has that slight 5% chance where she could edge out the best, the greatest TNA Knockouts World Heavyweight Champion of all time. Next, we have the main event. The main event featuring Nick Nemeth, the champion for the TNA World Championship. Special guest referee Frankie Kazarian, I felt like was unnecessary. I didn't like that he was booked as the special guest referee. Ultimately, I didn't agree with it. I didn't think it was a great way to kind of, to have this match be bigger than it actually, than it actually is. You have Joe Hendry, the sweetheart of professional wrestling. He made his way into WWE NXT. He was an absolute bombshell. He's a star. He's an international sensation. The fact that you have to add Kazarian just makes me believe that he's probably going to get screwed. Nick Nemeth will probably retain. TNA had to add in like that little outside factor that could be like, all right, Joe Hendry's going to pick up the win here. But the best thing to do is to keep the belt on Nemeth. So we're gonna have Frankie Kazarian be the special guest referee. Got a chat from my man Anthony Mazzano here. I think Spitfire retains the title. It doesn't matter or makes sense to put Wendy and Rosemary because Wendy is an NXT superstar. She's not always gonna be on the show to defend the titles. I do believe that, but at the same time, I disagree. Just a little bit of respectfully, of course. With this collaboration between WWE, NXT, and TNA, I kind of thought this was going to happen when you had the Rascals taking on Axiom and Nathan Frazier with Wes Lee. I thought they were going to take the NXT tag team titles and bring them across the brand to kind of have this. You kind of have to tune into both shows. And so, essentially, all the viewers that are coming to NXT during this new day and age on the CW, where they're becoming their own entity in terms of business wise, and it's forcing wrestlers. It's also forcing the audience to watch some TNA, just watch some TNA, because TNA obviously is it's a diamond in the rough. I feel like they have a lot of great wrestlers on tap. I definitely feel like they are stars. So having maybe Wendy and Rosemary, not the right match. Maybe not the right match, but it adds a little bit of a nuance, also a different like I said, they're kind of like this dark and ominous figure where they can perhaps, add a bunch of storylines. But overall, Rosemary, she had a hot start in the recent months. It feels like not recent months, maybe like 8 weeks or so. Like she went from this dominant force in TNA, and now she's I don't know. Now she's losing the matches on NXT against I love Keilani Jordan as the NXT North American champion, but I thought Rosemary was I don't know. I thought she was better. I thought and it's not an indictment on how how Jordan is also on Rosemary, but I don't know. I just feel like it could be, beneficial and also marketable. Great approach for both of these, promotions kind of have that kind of, aspect and perspective and stuff like that. All right, guys. So, hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to jump on into our fourth segment. We have Goldberg's WWE plans have been released. I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quick. Bam. All right. So, join me. We're going to take a quick commercial break here, but, do not go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling. We talk about, injury, statuses, inactive, updates in terms of superstars. We also talk about contract negotiations, extensions, and signings from promotions from WWE to AEW to TNA to Ring of Honor, AEW to the CMLL, the NW. If it makes major news, wrestling headlines, we talk about it here on this show 1010%. All right, just kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our AEW Dynamite review. We also had my Thursday night wrestling preview. We talked about Ring of Honor and TNA. And then we talked about TNA Bound for Glory. And now we're going to talk about some news that, like I said, kind of I'm not a huge Bill Goldberg kind of guy, but we have his WWE plans released. So we're going to get into that. Without further ado, it's going to pop up that graphic there. Bam. All right. Obviously, Goldberg recently has been seen. He was seen at WWE Bad Blood. In the front row with his son and his wife. And then you had Gunther kind of address how he was more of a well, he was talking to Bret Hart a couple of weeks prior. Then he said I was a Bill Goldberg guy, and he straightened it out. He's like, you know what? When I said that, I was just messing around to get under Bret Hart's skin. I think you're one of the most horrible wrestlers in the whole entire world. And the confrontation left, Bill Goldberg to kind of recently post on social media saying this, and I quote, he said, I ain't dead as long as I am breathing. Basically don't talk crap about me. Building up to this moment possibly where you can have a Gunther versus Bill Goldberg match. I'm not that great upon it, based on, Goldberg in the past. I feel like during the Vince McMahon era, maybe this match would be like a fan favorite. But or maybe I'm just on a whole nuanced side. Maybe I don't want to see this. Like, you know what I mean? You have a WCW legend and a WWE, obviously future Hall of Famer, they're gonna give it to him. Going against Gunther, who is, poised and polished, one of the basically one of the hottest superstars that you're seeing on the WWE Monday Night Raw roster, even on SmackDown. He's definitely, top 10 in terms of professional wrestling. No one wants to see him go against Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg, he's getting older, and obviously in the past it's been, basically reciprocated on how he handles his business inside the ring. You've seen botches after botches after botches, from, first and foremost, he's not really, he was never really that tactician inside the ring. I feel like ultimately WCW kind of brought him to their product because he was big, he was bad, he was rough, he was mean, he was dominant. He was something that people wanted to see. Ultimately, a series of smash matches after smash matches, and obviously kind of building up toward like when you saw Kevin Owens during his first Universal Championship run. There could have been a time where Kevin Owens could have picked up that victory. Maybe it would have been a different kind of promoting of a young superstar. That single booking of him dropping the title to Goldberg in that kind of fashion, it destroyed Kevin Owens. It destroyed his reputation. It destroyed his self confidence. It also destroyed the fans' perspective on him. As soon as he lost to Goldberg in that fashion, people are like, "Man, this guy's not a main eventer. This guy isn't going to be the face of WWE like in ever. This guy's selling TV. He's selling T-shirt brands. I I I don't believe in Kevin Owens. And I feel like ultimately that's a huge spot for Bill Goldberg. That's a huge spot for WWE creative as well. So maybe it's not entirely 1,010% on Bill's side, but at the same time, maybe if they had a decent match, but Bill Goldberg never has good matches. He doesn't have good wrestling matches. He never did. He goes in there, like I said, smash spot after smash spot after smash spot. And that's the only kind of wrestling he knows. And going up against Gunther, do you really think that this is going to be a great spot for Gunther to get smashed by Bill Goldberg? Absolutely not. The main thing that makes Gunther the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the thing that makes him look and the thing that makes him stand out in terms of the world of professional wrestling is his ability to put on amazing matches. You remember him, look at that match with Sheamus. At the Clash of the Castle. It was an absolute banger. Look at that WrestleMania 39 match. Look at that WrestleMania 40 match with Sammy. Like it was good. Putting him against somebody like Bill Goldberg is an absolute disgusting, disgraceful. It's an insult. It's an insult to a young, rising superstar, and this is a booking that I really hope WWE does not want to get their hands dirty on. But of course, obviously, the match is set to take place at WrestleMania. WrestleMania, from the beginning of WrestleMania 1, you kind of bring in these icons, you bring in these outside entertainment conglomerates, you bring out these superstars, these once were, maybe sometimes maybe like a has been. And it's just the entertainment factor of WrestleMania. But I feel like under the Triple H Paul Levesque era, recently you've seen a lot of these things kind of being brushed under the rug or not really being acknowledged in totality. And like I said, I just don't want this to hurt Gunther's push because I feel like he's a great WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I don't want to see him lose the title to basically anybody other than maybe, even Seth Rollins nowadays. Seems like it's quite a push. It's quite a push. It's quite a bend because Gunther, he's young, he's talented, he's good looking. He definitely has everything it takes to be a successful face of the WWE. With Monday Night Raw heading into this new day and age of this Netflix, they signed a 10-year billion-dollar contract with Netflix, a streaming service that has been prominent in the world of entertainment for years. They're like 20 million thousand whatever subscribers ahead of like Hulu, Disney Plus, also Amazon Prime. Netflix was kind of like, they were kind of like they created the wheel. They created this whole streaming services and stuff like that. So the fact that that Gunther will take on Bill Goldberg, if Bill Goldberg loses, I like it. I love it actually. But if he wins, a couple red flags there. Couple red flag. Of course, you also have to think about the Bray Wyatt push. When the Fiend was absolutely untouchable, where every single time he went out to the arena, skulls were cracking, dark, ominous glow. Nobody could beat this guy. He was this devilish figure, but it all changed. It all changed when Bill Goldberg stepped inside the ring with him and defeated this guy who couldn't be beaten by anybody. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's silly, and I don't really, I definitely don't want to see this happening. And also, like I said, it's not confirmed that what Bret Hart has to say is the stone cold honest truth. But, based on Goldberg's track record, I feel like maybe Bret Hart would have still been wrestling inside the ring if Bill Goldberg wasn't such a lux, man. You had the top tier competitor at his game, and Bret Hart knew when he went to WCW he would have to be working with, a couple of inactive, not inactive, a little inexperienced wrestling stars that basically could hurt him. But then Vince McMahon pulled out of their 20-year contract that they handshaked on. Vince McMahon obviously turned the other cheek, and then bam, this Montreal screw job happened. Brett is forced to go to WCW, and then he's forced to wrestle people like Bill Goldberg, where he's forced to retire because of a missed spot, because of a miscommunication by Bill Goldberg, who claimed that he said the kick was coming. You have Bret Hart, who probably could have been the top WWF/WWE title holder of all time. He had so much potential that could have been Bret Hart. He could have been the face of the World Wrestling Entertainment, from years to come. And it sucks and it's crazy. And also Bill Goldberg, botched a jackhammer, which ultimately led for the Undertaker to almost break his neck, to land on his head. Like, when guys like that happen, yeah, it's cool. Bill Goldberg's cool. And that's really all you can say about Bill Goldberg. To be honest, I can't look somebody straight in the face and be like, Bill Goldberg was an amazing wrestler. And I'm not trying to be mean, or I'm not trying to throw shade at Bill Goldberg, because ultimately I did love him in WCW. I did. When he came to WWE after the whole invasion, I thought that, oh my God, it was awesome. But I can't look somebody straight in the face and be like, Bill Goldberg was a great wrestler. I can't do that. But I can look somebody dead in the face and be like, man, Bill Goldberg was so cool, dude. I can do that. And that just, for me, that means something. That means something. All right, guys. So we talked about some Bill Goldberg, and now we're going to talk about our fifth and final segment. We're going to talk about WrestleMania 41's main event. In a recent interview with Cody Rhodes, he sensed, and he kind of sold a little bit. He had this attraction, this excitement heading toward WrestleMania season, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. So hey, do not go anywhere. All right, or welcome back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Here to talk about everything in the world of professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring. We talk about backstage curtain calls, drama, and rumors. We talk about inactive superstar and injury statuses. We talk about contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings. We talk about promotions from WWE to AEW to the GCW to the NWA. If it makes major news headlines in terms of the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show Monday through Friday. So make sure you guys tune into the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast. All right, so going to reflect on what we talked about right quick, and make sure you catch some of these segments on our two YouTube pages. We talked about some AEW Dynamite review. We talked about my Thursday Night Wrestling preview. We talked about Ring of Honor and TNA. We also talked about Bill Goldberg. But of course, before that, we talked about our TNA Bound for Glory predictions. And with our fifth and final segment, before I say goodbye to you guys on this beautiful Thursday night in Southern California, we're going to talk about some WrestleMania 41 main event. So let's go and dig on into that. Obviously, rapidly running out of time. I got my boy Emran's GSMC Soccer Podcast starting in 25 minutes. So let's go and dig on into some of the fun here. All right, so we're going to talk about some WrestleMania. Obviously, the main event of WrestleMania 41 has been rumored between Roman Reigns taking on The Rock, taking on the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and the defending undisputed champion, The Rock basically, when he came out on WWE Bad Blood, counted to 3. A lot of people, obviously, a lot of nonverbal cues in terms of wrestling promotions have been sort of, sort of an unwritten rule to be like, all right, this means that, that means this. Maybe some speculations running. Sometimes nothing means something, and sometimes, something means nothing. So, a lot of those nonverbal cues that a lot of wrestling fans kind of hang on. You saw The Rock come out staring dead in the face of Jimmy, The Rock, also Cody, putting up his, counting to 3 with his fingers, and he made a sign of like a dead kind of notice. So this could mean for a triple threat match. It could mean for a triple threat match. This could ultimately mean for that The Rock has acknowledged that he's going to have to, take out Solo Sikoa. He's going to have to take out Roman Reigns, ultimately to reclaim or to ultimately stake his claim as the tribal chief in terms of the family. So, I personally think, Solo Sikoa was, he was seen at WWE Bad Blood, from an audience member recording on Twitter, Instagram, or on live feed, basically saying that this is all part of the plan. This could be part of the plan, but this could also be The Rock manipulating Solo Sikoa. Maybe he comes in with his own bloodline storyline. Like I said, there's Lance Anoa'i, there's Journey Fatu, there's Hika Leo. There's a lot of possible superstars that could build this new bloodline storyline that could possibly favor the most electrifying man, the final boss of the world of professional wrestling, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So, this main event could definitely be seen through here. In WWE, I kind of feel for it. I ultimately feel like a triple threat match in the main event. If it's the match before the main event, I get it. But in the main event, usually it's a one-on-one. It has to be a one-on-one. You haven't really seen the WWE Championship slash WWF Championship seen in a one-on-one, something different than a one-on-one match. Since WrestleMania 2000, where you saw Mick Foley, where you saw The Big Show, where you saw The Rock and you saw Triple H fighting for that coveted WWF Championship. Of course, you saw it with the World Heavyweight Championship. You've seen it twice. You've seen Randy Orton taking on Batista, taking on Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. You saw Brock Lesnar taking on Brock Lesnar taking on Roman Reigns, taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. And then you also saw with the Universal Championship, you saw Roman Reigns taking on Edge, taking on Daniel Bryan, also WrestleMania 37, but you have not seen it with with a lot of these with the WWE championships, which I feel like under this Triple H era, I feel like they're kind of steering away from it. So I don't know. It's just it's just a possibility. It's just a possibility. Obviously, this kind of got me thinking about some of the WrestleMania 41 rumors. I stumbled across Bleacher Report's early WrestleMania 41 card that was, an article that was written in April. So let's kind of go through it here. All right, first we have Sami Zayn taking on Drew McIntyre. That could happen. I definitely think that could happen 1,010%. Damian Priest taking on Finn Balor. I don't know if they're gonna let this Judgment Day fallout last longer until WrestleMania. For that's a long time. That's quite a long time. But for these guys to kind of squash their beef, maybe that's the appropriate time. But I don't know. I feel like something has to be done definitely before that. We have an Intercontinental Championship match. We have Braun Breaker taking on Sheamus. That match, I'm not really, too high on. I don't think that's really going to happen. You have a World Women's Championship match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Once again, are we going to have these girls, cut promo after promo after promo on Monday Night Raw, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for like 3 or 4 plus months? I definitely don't think that's practical. I definitely don't think that's pragmatic. And, most importantly, it seems a little stale. It seems a little stale to kind of have these girls going back and forth at it, cutting promos. And, definitely wouldn't want to jump on that bandwagon. We would have a WWE Tag Team title match between the Usos. They said Jacob Fatu and, Tama Tonga, but of course that's wrong. The Usos taking on the Tungans. I wouldn't be super against that. But Jey Uso was this close of getting his single superstar, career going. You had him winning the WWE Intercontinental Championship match on Monday Night Raw, just to kind of have it taken away because of the bloodline, forcing him into this family drama that he didn't necessarily want anything to do or be a part of for that kind of, so to speak. So, the Intercontinental Championship match, I really can't, give you guys an early run on it. The World Heavyweight Championship, on the contrary, I feel like is already set in stone. It's been set in stone for quite some time. CM Punk taking on Seth Rollins, but Bleacher Report added in Gunther. So we're gonna have a triple threat match. I'm not too sure how that would really reflect, especially if you're kind of anticipating, a triple threat main event. The Rock takes on Roman Reigns, takes on the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, defending that coveted WWE Undisputed Championship. So, I'm not really a stern believer on that would happen because, you've had Seth and CM Punk hate each other. Not even during kayfabe or on the screen backstage as well. Of course, according to reports, Seth Rollins does not respect CM Punk, and of course, we have Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship taking on Randy Orton. Randy Orton being a part of this, being a part of this mix, kind of stuck in the middle between Kevin Owens and between Cody Rhodes. Doesn't really seem like this match is really going to come in fruition. I want to see Cody Rhodes go after, and I'm not saying Randy Orton does not have that kind of star power. Maybe somewhere along the line, maybe he turns heel. Like, who knows? Obviously, we are months and months and months away from WrestleMania 41. So, obviously, reading this article was like, that's kind of cool. Ooh, that'd be cool if that happened. So, obviously, a lot of these things, it's not solidified, it's not concrete, it's not, it's not dead set, or it's not predetermined. And then, of course, the main event that they're predicting is the Bloodline Rules match, Roman Reigns taking on The Rock, which could definitely happen. I feel like this could definitely happen. The Rock has told Cody Rhodes that, their story, it's just begun. It's just begun. So, definitely preluding to the deal that WWE Monday Night Raw has made with Netflix because, you have John Cena coming back with his retirement tour. I'm surprised they did not predict any matches that he's going to be in. Also, they're waiting till after WrestleMania 41 to bring these superstars like Cody Rhodes or this whole Bloodline Civil War storyline, which I feel like it will ultimately end up on Netflix. I feel like it has to. I feel like it has to. You kind of have The Rock. You kind of, you kind of say, not say, you kind of have it under wraps, being like, yeah, dude, we have a hot television series featuring The Rock. But at the end of the day, it's still, it's wrestling. And it's not a bad thing, but it's obviously, a steal from Netflix. Be like, yeah, we can get a deal where we can bring in a lot of young, edgier content. We can bring in wrestling. We can also bring in The Rock or somebody with we can bring in John Cena. It's like, watching the Fast and Furious and, obviously, Hobbs and whatever, Shaw, whatever. I don't know these guys' names on the television program, but you basically have these two superstars representing a product that could be seen all over the world in terms of Netflix, because Netflix has been definitely known for promoting international kind of entertainment. WWE is popular, in India, in the UK, in Germany, you name it, they're absolutely unpopular. They're live over, 100 and some countries. So I think that's badass. So WrestleMania 41, Cody Rhodes has said in an interview that he's happy about the main event. Didn't necessarily give what it was going to entail, but just kind of leaving a cliffhanger. Obviously, you can always count on the WWE Undisputed Champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, kind of keeping us on our toes. All right, guys. So, hey, that's it for me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan. Remember to Superman punch that. Like and subscribe button to the show. Follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for more content and updates. Other than that, if you're not a wrestling fan, if I have not made you a wrestling fan by now, go and check out some of the other podcasts we have here. We got 2 football podcasts. The NFL season is heating up. Catch up on all the breaking news, all the new signings with the GSMC Football Podcast with Kenneth, the Chip Shot Football Podcast with my boy Manny. We also have, the College Football Podcast with Tommy. That's heating up on Saturdays. Make sure you guys tune into that. And in terms of sports, if it's college football, the NFL, maybe even the NBA coming back, fantasy sports is prominent. It's very popular. Tune into Chris Shepard's GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Find out your stardoms, your sit-ups, who to pick up on the waiver wire. Just make sure your lineup is a WWE championship worthy. Also, like I said, the NBA is upon us. Tune into Nelson's GSMC Basketball Podcast. We also have all around sports. Find out everything that's happening in the World Series with Jeremy's Sports by GSMC. We have TJ's GSMC Sports Podcast. Make sure you find out on all the latest news in wrestling. It's like your one-stop shop, our sports center, so to speak, in terms of the GSMC Sports Podcast. Make sure you tune into all these guys' podcasts. They're super passionate. They're amazing. And yeah, definitely watch them, learn from them. That's what I do. I feel like they're great entertainers. I give you the Eric Rodriguez guarantee that you will never, ever, ever, ever regret subscribing to the GSMC Sports Network because of all the passionate and all the sports content that we love bringing you guys Monday through Friday. So make sure you guys subscribe to the network. Also like and follow. All right, so that's it for me today. Stay beautiful, but most importantly, love you.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.